What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Movie Emporium's Netflix original film review of The Man from Toronto, the newest film from director Patrick Hughes. So, The Man from Toronto is the new Netflix original film that stars Woody Harrelson and, of course, Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart is a meekish individual who plays Teddy, and he basically is an individual that doesn't want to have any confrontation. He basically starts a no-contact boxing program, or at least he tries and fails and all that good stuff. And he decides he's going to take his girlfriend for a weekend vacation, I guess you could say, and ends up getting, confused and mistaken as a hitman or a killer called the Man from Toronto, who's actually played by, of course, Woody Harrelson. And after everything's said and done, the two individuals start teaming up. It becomes a buddy comedy road trip action film. And basically, it leads down a lot of predictable paths you expect, including, the handler who's played by, of course, Barkin, and a bunch of other bad guys, John Wick style. And it basically is a story about how Kevin Hart has to turn from a meekish individual to a badass individual in a lot of respects, well, under the guise of Woody Harrelson's character, the Man from Toronto. So, of course, Netflix bought this property, this individual movie, I guess you could say. It was originally supposed to premiere in theaters in April of 2020. Pandemic happened, kept getting pushed. Finally, it was just sold to Netflix. Just put it out there on the market. 2022 is finally here. It's middle of June, and it's finally releasing on Netflix. Now, with that said, the trailer looked all right. It didn't look like anything special. It looked like, Kevin Hart doing Kevin Hart. It looked like Woody Harrelson trying to be a badass, similar to, Liam Neeson and, those action films of old people, Jeff Bridges, and of course the old man. And it just looked like one of those typical, you're going to have fun with it and you're not going to remember anything. So I didn't really go in with any expectations. I didn't expect the movie to be very good, to be fairly honest. So yeah, that's just kind of where I lay with my official feeling of what this film was going to be. And so for my honest review of this movie, which is not going to be very long to be fairly honest, it does exactly what you expect. It doesn't move the needle. It doesn't do anything different. It's not a very good movie, but it's entertaining. The performances are fine. Kevin Hart does what Kevin Hart does. Woody Harrelson does the angry character that he plays in every one of his movies and stuff like that. It just, for, all intents and purposes, it's just a movie that you expect and see coming. You see the bad guys and how they're played. You see what's going to happen to Kevin Hart's character. You see how Woody Harrelson's going to play. There's a fun little moment with his car in this movie that, he's really in love with, like John Wick. It's very much Patrick Hughes and company doing a John Wick, but comedy action style. It doesn't really do anything special, so therefore it's not a very special movie. This is a movie that you're going to watch. You're probably going to enjoy, but you're going to forget about 3 days later because there is another Netflix action comedy coming out with a bunch of big name stars and stuff like that. But like I said, when you kind of just go in and watch it, it's like Red Notice or something like that. You just kind of go with it for what it's worth. You enjoy what they're doing. You have fun with it. That's what this movie is meant to be. It's not meant to be high art. It's not meant to be the top tier John Wick action shelf stuff. It's just going to be a comedy with Kevin Hart doing his thing once again, and Woody Harrelson. And the worst part about this movie is the visual effects, which are absolutely horrendous. It feels like they spent $5 on the visual effects in this movie, and it really shows. Like, you can tell where they use the visual effects and how they use it. And there are parts it's like every movie I watch these days when there's visual effects, it's like, did that really need to have visual effects moments? Are you really that cheap in the, practical area to just do practical? And maybe they are. Maybe this is, I don't know. Maybe this is less than $100 million budget. I don't know. I don't think it probably is more than $100 million budget, to be fairly honest. But it just doesn't look good at all. It's very bland, and the colors are very saturated and ugly. And it's a movie that just doesn't appeal at all to any kind of form or fashion when it comes to filmmaking. And, I don't blame Patrick Hughes for doing these types of movies. I just wish he would kind of push himself more to do something more interesting and aesthetic, because when you're doing stuff like The Expendables 3 and then you're doing the Hitman Bodyguard series, they're fine, but do you honestly go back and it's like, oh yeah, that was like the greatest thing I ever watched? You're like, no, not really. I enjoyed it for what it's worth. And that's the problem with this movie too, is you just don't remember it and you just don't feel anything for it at all. You kind of watch it and go, that's good. you just kind of move on with your life. And that's a shame because an action comedy with Woody Harrelson and Kevin Hart should be more entertaining than it really is. But once again, you know, I'm kind of like rambling a little bit, but once again, you know, it is still a fun movie. It still does what it needs to do. It, you know, it has a purpose for being on Netflix to, you know, rise the subscriber base, which is really struggling right now. But I think we're finally seeing once again the kind of seams breaking on the surface of Netflix movies. We're seeing that they spent way too much money on these properties and they're not given enough quality in return. And when you have that kind of issue, you go into it going, I guess this will be fun, but you really just don't want to remember it later because it just really isn't that fun, to be fairly honest. So in the end, for this movie, The Man from Toronto, it has likable stars. It has a very predictable premise. But for an hour and 50 minutes, I don't think you'll be what I call insulted. You just go, yeah, that was good for what it's worth. You know, I enjoyed it. I had fun. And what's the next action comedy film coming out for Netflix in the coming weeks? With that said, that's pretty much where I lie on this film. I wish I could offer more, but there's really not much to offer. Like I said, Kaley Cuoco is in this movie, and she really doesn't offer much to begin with herself. But with that said, there you go. That is my take on The Man from Toronto. Yeah, there you go. Anyways, with that said, thank you so much for watching. Comments below. Are you interested in seeing this movie? Have you seen this movie? Let me know what you think. Otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. As always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.